Alright, getting ready to put the front wheel back on. Got these little wheel spacers. I've got just some regular lithium based grease. Put a little bit on the end of the spacer. Dabbed a little in on the seal. Got that on the other side too. And the front axle, you just want to smear a light coat over the whole thing. So I got that all greased up there. And just gotta raise the wheel up there and slide this axle in there. Alright, so I got the wheel back on there. It's ready to be, you're supposed to torque it to half of the torque spec for the axle, which is the full torque spec is 72 Newton meters, so I'm going to do 35, 36, somewhere around there. Okay, now can't finish torquing that until the bike's on the ground. You got to compress the suspension to get everything lined up and then put it to the full 72 Newton meters, so gonna have to wait to finish that up. Alright, got the calipers back on there. Forget you got your 12 meters top and bottom, 12 millimeters. 8 millimeter bolt for the brake line. So probably gonna clean up the fender before I throw that back on there. And the other thing too, be sure that you install the wheel going the right direction, because I think pretty much all these sport bike tires are directional, which means they have to rotate in a certain direction. See right there, it's got the arrow on it. So yeah, you don't want to install the tire backwards. Alright, I just wanted to show you what's going on with this sprocket. Got these little rubber spacers in there. As you see, they've got a split in them, and they just sit on these ribs, and you just fit the sprocket in there. And make sure you got all the spacers set up. Pay attention to that when you're taking it apart. You want to smear some grease on that stuff. Just clean it up with solvent cleaner and put a little smear of grease on the ends there on the bearing seals. Alright, basically got the finished product here. I apologize that couldn't really film myself putting this on there, so just gonna have to bear with me. I'll talk you through what I did. Basically, you know, get all those little spacers cleaned up, get some grease smeared on them, and then even these spacer plates on the inside, just smear a light coating of the lithium grease. Same thing with the spacer on this side. So basically want to roll the wheel back in there, start getting the chain up on the sprocket, make sure that this caliper mounting piece is set up here, and you know, have your axle. I just stood it up because I had the grease on it. It was all greased up, ready to go. So got the wheel up there, was looking, make sure it was lined up. You know, with the spacer on there, slide the axle in to start holding it, come around, watch the other side, make sure it's going to slide through this caliper bracket and come back out the other side here. And you might actually want to have that little caliper bolt, like I just had it a few threads in there just to kind of keep this referenced where it needed to be. So push the axle all the way through. This axle's got like flat sides on it. They have to fit into the spacer back here. So once you get it through, do your chain adjustment. I know when I took this off, it was on about the 4th mark from the back, and I brought it back to that's about the 3rd mark. Probably really can't see it, but it's the third one. Seems to be where the chain wants to be. So, you know, you set your adjustment, like I wanted to get to that third mark, so you do both sides with your adjusters. You know, this is the bolt that's going to push back, and then this is your lock nut. So basically what you do is kind of pushing on the back of the wheel, start working this bolt out. You know, I had it screwed in so it was further up. I like to work against the tension of me pushing on the back of the tire. Same thing on the other side. You know, probably going smaller increments, kind of jumping back and forth. You know, do a little bit on the left side, come back to the right side, do a little, same thing. I got that. It's around the third mark. Probably hard to see with this camera, but. So anyways, once you get this situated, the next thing you want to do is snug up this, you know, get the nut and the washer on there, snug that up, you know, make sure you're, like I'll use my leg to kind of push tension on there, you know, keep the tire pushed towards the front of the swing arm, and just get this tightened up by hand. And after that, you're going to come back with the torque wrench and torque it on there. Torque spec, I think it's like 150 in Newton meters, which is about 100 foot-pounds. And I wouldn't just set the torque wrench to 100 foot-pounds and crank it on there. I'd do it in increments, like start out at 30 or 35, then do like 60, 65, and then finish it off at 100. You know, you want to step up that torque instead of just cranking it on there real heavy. So once you do that, you know, get that torque down. The last thing you want to do is get that caliper mounting bolt, get that tightened up. So then with that finished off, came back to the front, got it off the stand. You want to compress the fork, so get on the bike and push down, cycle the suspension a few times, and then come back and finish torquing this. I think it was like 72 Newton meters, which is about 50 foot-pounds, which you had already done about half the torque on this when it was still on the stand, so basically you're finishing it off. You know, set your torque wrench to 50 and sneak up on it. So once that axle nut's torqued, the last thing you gotta do is tighten up this pinch bolt. I think it says like 23 Newton meters, which like my torque wrench only goes down to like 30 foot-pounds. Or 30 Newton meters, something like that. I think it's like 20 some foot-pounds, 30 Newton meters, I don't know, something like that. But regardless, I don't have anything to torque this to the spec in the book, so I just kind of got it tightened up by hand where I felt comfortable with it. So yeah, that's it. I don't know, I still got to do this starter. I really have no clue how I'm going to do that. The book says that you got to take the carbs off. I had the bottle off earlier, kind of looking at it, seeing if I could sneak it out, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But I'm kind of anxious to ride this thing, so I'm going to deal with my retarded starter problems for the moment. So yeah, that's it. Get the seats back on and pretty much ready to roll. The other thing too, you know, you got to bear in mind, when you got brand new tires, I mean, they're brand new, they're going to be kind of slippery. So, you know, let's keep that in the back of your head. You want to get some mileage on them before you start, you know, getting kind of goofy with them. So, it started raining. It was nice out yesterday, of course, because I was working on this thing, and then today started raining, so I'm going to wait till it dries up really nice, and then, you know, wait until I got some time so I can take a pretty decent ride, get some mileage on those tires first time out, just kind of scrub them in or whatever. So yeah, I still got to do a license plate, probably do that next, but we'll see. Alright, one more thing. before I head out on this, I'm gonna have to make sure that I check the tire pressure, because I have no idea what the dealership set them at. I usually run like 36 psi up front and about 40 in the rear. And got your little tire sticker here which says 36 up front, 36 in the rear. Unless you got a passenger, you can go up to like 42 in the rear tire. And one other thing too, want to make sure that once you got the calipers on, you make sure your brakes are working front and rear. So give your brakes a little check. Alright, so yep, like I said, still gotta do the license plate light, so that'll probably be the next thing I do.